prepared to jump onto the ninja hype train, my friends, because in this week's episode of Boruto, Naruto Next Generations, the next epic arc in the series is about to begin. An arc which is going to look very familiar to the most hardcore of Naruto fans. And that is because it is an adaptation of the Naruto manga spin-off, Naruto Gaiden. And hilariously enough, despite the fact that the arc is called Naruto Gaiden and this is the Boruto anime series, the main character of this arc is going to be none other than Sarada Uchiha. I can honestly say at the very end of this week's episode of Boruto, I had goosebumps. Just getting to see Sasuke finally appear again, entering out of some weird, mysterious, dark portal, only to be attacked by a mysterious hooded assailant with a bladed weapon, just... man, it gave me that good, old-school Naruto ninja action feeling. And most importantly, it delved into Sarada Uchiha, a character whom I believe is one of the most interesting aspects of the Boruto series, period. The fact that Sasuke, who's practically a war criminal by the end of the original series, ends up having a daughter who ends up being a main character who ends up having aspirations of becoming Hokage, with Boruto basically just wanting to be the badass bodyguard. Something about that concept is already immediately fresh, and getting to learn a little bit more about her family life is arguably the most intriguing thing about this episode right here, as one of the foundations of the entire Naruto franchise has been based upon family and friends. And we finally get to see what Sarada's family life is like, and despite the fact that her mother is very caring, very sweet, and very kind, she knows nothing of her father. And according to Sarada in this week's episode, she's never even met Sasuke before. Now, I'm willing to believe that Sasuke has been a part of Sarada's life, mostly when she was a baby, but there was a point when he decided to leave and go on his very own personal journey to right all of the wrongs from when he was a young ninja, as well as to try and find any bad ninja, beat the ever-living shit out of them, and try to prevent any threats which would be very bad for Naruto's brand new peaceful ninja world. And because of that, he is desperately trying to protect his family and all of his friends from the shadows. Essentially, Sasuke is like the good version of Danzo. The problem is, for him not being there with Sarada, she starts to resent the fact that her family might not even be her true family after all. And that is probably the most intriguing thing about this episode right here. And the wounds definitely cut deep for Sarada, as throughout the course of the episode, she gets to see all of her friends and comrades having all of these great family moments with their parents. Case in point, Boruto at the very beginning of this week's episode, as he is definitely following in his father's footsteps by defacing the giant Kage mountain. Mount Ninja more, if you will, by actually painting idiot right on Naruto's face on the giant rock. This scene is really funny because, one, Naruto gets super pissed off when he sees this, but it's also ironic because he was doing the same stuff when he was a kid and arguably doing a lot more damage when he was younger. I mean, he covered all of the faces big time. This is Boruto basically just sort of reaching out to his father, trying to piss him off, so to speak, so that they can play a game of tag. There's also a few other minor moments, things like Rock Lee training with his son Metal, same thing with Shikamaru and his son Shikadai, even Sai and his son Inojin are going to be doing some training. But I think the one character that surprised me the most, and again in this episode, had to be Chocho Akimichi, a character who originally in the manga version, and even in some of the movie versions and some of the OVAs that we've seen, have really annoyed the hell out of me. But if there's one thing I can say about Boruto Naruto Next Generations, it's that it's actually made me like the character of Chocho. She is the perfect combination of her father and mother, not only in looks, but the personality as well. She's so sassy and not afraid to speak her mind, and hilariously enough, just like Sarada, she has a similar problem in this episode. You see, both of these girls are convinced that their parents are not actually their true parents. Chocho for more ridiculous reasons, but Sarada actually does have some legitimate concern. The fact that she's never seen her father, the fact that she barely resembles her mother, especially because she has the pink hair, and the fact that she wears glasses and has really bad blurry vision. Sasuke doesn't wear glasses. Sakura doesn't wear glasses, so she realizes that something is not quite right here. And throughout the course of the episode, she even mentions that her eyes are getting progressively blurry. And, you know, obviously avid viewer fans are going to notice that, yes, she is a member of the Uchiha clan, thus she's probably getting ready to develop her Sharingan eyes. And I think that was some really nice foreshadowing in this episode. Not to mention a great scene where she goes over to the archives of Konoha to learn a little bit more about the history of the Uchiha clan and Sasuke. The problem is, a lot of this stuff is completely restricted and she can't know anything about her father, which again just adds more mystery to this, and the fact that she also learns that apparently her entire birth is a complete mystery in Konoha Village. Nobody knows how it actually went down. And then that brings us to the most crucial scene of the episode, and probably the most heartbreaking scene of the entire episode, when Sarada returns home and confronts her mother about everything that's going on with Sasuke, why he's never returning home, why they don't have a normal family, and why Sakura seems to be so nonchalant about all of it, although apparently she ends up hitting a pretty deep wound when Sakura gets really super pissed off, punches the hell out of the ground, destroying the foundation and pretty much their entire house in the process. Sakura completely gets knocked out, and it's up to Sarada to pick up the pieces. And what I mean by that is she decides to go in the house and try to salvage as much as she can while the house is going to be rebuilt, and she comes across this old picture frame, which has a few pictures of her and Sakura, and of course is Sasuke. But what is most interesting about this photo is that it's Sasuke during his days with the Akatsuki. He's even wearing his very old cloak. And due to the damage from the house, the frame ends up getting damaged, and she realizes that this picture of Sasuke is one larger picture that's actually in the frame. She pulls it out, and she sees a couple of mysterious people that she has never seen before. Sasuke's old rooming buddies, such as Suigetsu Jugo, and of course, Karin, who just so happens to be wearing the same exact glasses as Sarada Uchiha, which immediately leads her to believe that Karin could very well be her real mother. And considering how Karin is completely obsessed with Sasuke and in that picture looks completely enamored to be right next to him, it's easy to see why she ended up believing that. That with her weird, mysterious birth, the fact that this woman is nowhere, and the fact that Sasuke is nowhere to be seen. Later on in the episode, both Sarada and Chocho decide that they're going to go on their very own personal journey to find their real parents. They both have very weird reasons for that, but it's definitely one of the best driving reasons behind this episode. But there's also just a little bit of action at the very end of the episode when we get to see that Sasuke has returned to the village. He's in the middle of the forest. He walks out of this mysterious dark portal with his Sharingan and Rinnegan eyes activated, and he realizes that he's being watched. And then suddenly he's attacked by this mysterious assailant who is wearing a cloak, who you might actually get to see some better glimpses of in the actual outro of the show. And that's where the episode ends. That's how they're going to get butts in seats, and that's how they're going to get people watching the next exciting episode of the series. So what's the rundown on this week's episode of Boruto Naruto Next Generations? This was a really cool episode in the beginning to a really exciting arc of the series. While it is disappointing that in this arc I do know everything that is going to go down, finally getting to see the Naruto Gaiden arc animated is one hell of a treat. And the fact that it focuses on Sarada Uchiha makes it all the more interesting. I especially love how relatable this episode is actually going to be to a lot of viewers. In the most unfortunate of senses, of course. There are a lot of people out there, and especially a lot of children, who unfortunately don't know one or either of their parents, and that leaves them feeling alienated and scared in a world where, frankly, they don't have a lot of information. This is exactly what's going on with Sarada right here. She's having a lot of extreme doubts, and it's been very different from the Sarada that we've seen from the first half of the series, who is cool, calm, and collected and is seen as one of the coolest ninjas in the entire academy. Here, we get to see that she does have an extreme weakness, and it's actually her compassion for her family and her wanting to be with her father. It's pretty damn sad in that one scene when she's actually talking to her mother, and then she starts to break down and cry after watching Sakura punch the ground. Honestly, is just heartbreaking. You just want to be right there with her and just give her a damn big hug. You just feel bad, and even Sakura, you can tell, feels a little bad for what she did after this, especially considering that she wrecked their entire house with one single punch. But, you know, that's just the way that Sakura does things. And besides, they live in Konoha Village. They'll just call up Yamato and he'll make them a house in like a split second. It's not really an issue for Yamato. Though, still, it is really extreme that Sakura decided to completely faint during all of these events, something that's been happening to her a lot more recently. Chalk it up to old age, but really she's not that much older than she was in the original series, just a decade or so. But still, this one right here was a great introduction to Sarada's brand new story of trying to figure out what really happened with her birth, who her true parents are, and Chocho coming along for the ride is really fun. And Chocho in this episode, man, he just rocked. I absolutely loved every scene she was in. I loved the scene when they were in Konoha and they were just having like a little break and suddenly her father Choji comes up and he just looks goofy as hell walking through the streets with a big bag of potato chips in his hand, and she's not embarrassed by seeing this. She's embarrassed by seeing Choji with a very specific brand of potato chips. The Akamichi clan takes their whole like food thing very seriously, and Chocho taking it seriously honestly makes it really damn funny. That, and like I said, just seeing her like talk back to her parents and being able to inherit a lot more, I think, of her mother's personality than Choji's, yet still taking a lot of his general appearance, just makes her one hell of an interesting character. And again, this is another one of those episodes that's doing a great job of letting us know that these characters are not just carbon copies of the other ones from the series. They may resemble them in many senses, but they are their very own characters with their very own motivations. And that's what I definitely got from this one right here. And if I had to say there was any like major difference from like the manga version, it would just be like nitpicking stuff. Like there are some minor differences, like as opposed to like sitting down, they're walking through the streets or something like that, and some of the story elements are being shifted around oh so slightly. But I think it works to the benefit of this episode, especially the way they ended this one with Sasuke running into this like weird, mysterious hooded guy. Like, the events didn't play out exactly like that in the manga version. Like, that still happens, but it doesn't really, like, start to really, like, come to fruition until, like, the second chapter. And for them to introduce that early in the anime version, I think is a really smart move, because it's going to get people more excited to watch the next episode. And this is one that you're definitely going to want to tune in for, especially if you're an old-school fan of Naruto, as a lot of these villains might have some connections to some classic ones that we've seen from the series. So, overall, this was a pretty solid package right here, and it had a pretty good story for it. It's the beginning of a really exciting arc. It's not the big super mega action fest I think everyone's going to be waiting for, but trust me, it's going to build up to that. And plus, if you're a fan of Sarada and you want to learn a lot more about her, this is definitely the beginning of probably the most development that she's had from the entire series, so that's something to get excited about. So, if I had to give a score for this week's chapter, I would probably give it a 4 out of 5. It was a little slow in some parts, but for the most part, this was a satisfying episode that looked pretty good and had some great emotional moments, not to mention a little bit of comedy and levity from Chocho. So make sure to check it out, guys. But if any of you did watch the episode, make sure to tell me what you thought about it in the comments section below. What did you think of this week's episode? Are you excited for the Naruto Gaiden arc? Are Sasuke and Sakura really the parents of Sarada Uchiha, or is Karin actually the real mother? And what do you hope to see from the rest of this brand new, super exciting arc? Thank you all so much for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for all things Boruto related, and make sure to take your nearest shuriken and throw it right towards that like button. Give this video a thumbs up and share it with all your friends. I'll see you guys next time. And as always, stay damn down, baby.